Hi, it's Kamel, so welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to give you guys some book recommendations because I like to read and I'm always on the hunt for a good book. So I thought I would give you guys some recommendations in case you too like to read. In case you like to read too. I can't really find a good location in my room to film, but I wanted to film on the floor. Even then, it's kind of hard with this angle. I really don't like this angle. Not really liking it, but it's just gonna have to do, you know, so I guess it's fine. Plus it's by window and it's by light, so that's where I wanted it to be. And the rest of my room is like a mess as well. Okay, so the first book I'm gonna talk about is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Basically, it's about some high schoolers. 4 high schoolers are in detention. While in detention, one of the high schoolers die of a peanut allergy. And so the 3 left that are in detention, I think it's 3. I don't know. I read this a while ago, but it's a good book. So the rest of the kids that are in detention, they are up for investigation to figure out who killed the high schooler that died that was in detention. So everyone's being questioned. Everyone is being under close surveillance, under being scrutinized, and trying to figure out who killed the high schooler. All the while, the high schooler that died, he did a online gossip type thing for the school. Basically, it's like a little online website or a little page that he created, a social media page, just like basically giving like all the gossip and the tea that was been going on while in high school. That would have been like the killer's motive to like kill the kid that died, because he held all the gossip that went around in school. It's a good book. I recommend. It's a good read. I even got the sequel to this book called One of Us is Next, and that book is also pretty good, so I recommend this book. It's basically like a murder mystery book, so if you like reading murder mysteries, this book is a good book to read. So the next book I want to recommend is called Blackout by a few different Black authors. It's by, some part of the book is by Danielle Clayton, some is by Tiffany D. Jackson, some is by Nick Stone, some is by Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, Nicola Yoon. These people. I read a book by Angie Thomas. It's called The Hate You Give, and that's a good book and I liked it. So here's this book here. I like this book as well. This book is also about some teenagers wandering around New York, and New York is going through like a blackout. So all the teenagers, they're like in the blackout trying to live their lives. So basically it's about like young Black love. That's essentially what the book is about. This part here is also about me explaining like every little situation in the book, and I thought I would just give you guys the shortened version. The book follows some teenagers around in the blackouts, and in the end they all end up finding love. But basically the book is about young Black love, and I like it. I would have read it twice. So this book here, I've been hearing about this book. I've been hearing that this book is a good read. I've been hearing that this book is a good book, a book that you should get, a book that you should read. I heard about this author as well. I heard that she's also a good author, and I actually want more books by her because I heard her other books are good as well. But this book is called It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book is basically about an abusive, toxic relationship that a girl's mother was in, and she grew up around her mother being in an abusive, toxic relationship. Her mother's boyfriend, I believe, husband, her mother's partner was basically abusing her, hitting on her every time she did something wrong, like screaming at her, berating her, stuff like that. So she grew up around that. So when she got older, she got in a relationship with this guy named Ryle, and he seemed like a good person. He met her, she met him on a rooftop of a party, but she was on the rooftop to get away. And Ryle seemed like a good person, like a good guy. So they ended up being in a relationship. But there were just like little things that Ryle did to her that she did not like, and their relationship ended up becoming abusive. So in the end, Lily has overcame that relationship, And it's a good book. It just puts you in the shoes of being in an abusive relationship. It gives you like a different perspective. But it's a good book. I read this book. I recommend. I liked the read. I liked how it was written and all of that. So one of my most recent reads, I read this. This is the last book that I read before I'm reading my new book now. But this book is a good book. I read this book in 5 days, and it's called 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This book is so good. I read it in 5 days. It's also about Black love. So this book is so good. So it is 7 days in June. So it takes you about a week in June. It's about Ava Mercy Moore and about her week in June and how it drastically changed within that week. So basically she can't get over her past with this boy named Shane, and basically they had a past together, and all of a sudden Shane shows up at this book talk. So Ava Mercy Moore, she is a author in the book. Shane is also an author in the book, and Ava has been writing her books since high school, since she got out of high school. Shane has also been writing his books since he got out of high school. Them two were past lovers. And in high school, both Shane and Ava both had problems mentally. So Ava, she would always cut herself just to get rid of her problems. Not to get rid of her problems, but to temporarily ease her pain. Shane will always do drugs and drink to also temporarily ease his pain. So they were in a house together. They're doing what they do to get rid of, to temporarily ease their pain. Ava was, yeah, basically, there's that. I'm not going to describe that whole scene. And so Shane all of a sudden turns up 15 years later to this book paneling thing. And Ava is like, oh my gosh, why is he here? I don't even know if he remembers me or not, whatever. So throughout the week, Ava and Shane, they go throughout their past. They take a walk down memory lane and try to clear some things up, tie up some loose ends and stuff like that. And in the end, a beautiful thing happens. So you're just gonna have to read the book, but it's a good book. I highly recommend. It is a good book. I read it in 5 days, like I said, and it's so good that you just couldn't put it down. You know, that is the end of this video. Hopefully you guys were able to find a good book, or were interested in a book to read. Hopefully you guys were able to get some recommendations and stuff like that, or be inspired to read. I don't really know. But all these books are a good read. I recommend all of these books, but my most books that I would highly recommend is 7 Days in June and It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I would highly recommend these two. These two were so good. All of them were so good, but I really like these two. And yeah, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. But, you know, what am I saying? And that is the end of this video. Thank you guys. That intro, that outro, okay.